Public Protector Thuli Madonsela is adored by many ordinary South Africans, but she has also made enemies in the course of her work. Born in Soweto in the 1960s to a domestic worker mother and informal trader father, we find out what makes her the principled woman and mother we know today, and how she remains courageous under fire.
Advocate Thuli Madonsela, thank you so much for granting us this interview. I wanted to begin by speaking to you about your childhood. What can you remember about growing up?
I had a happy childhood, broadly. Although I came from a fairly disadvantaged background, by the standards of that township, we were better off. Initially, my mother was a domestic worker, and my father worked in the electrical industry as an ordinary laborer. And he had a car, so those days, if you had a car, you were fairly well off. Later, when he stopped being a laborer, he was involved in transporting people between South Africa and Swaziland. My parents were informal traders much later.
I remember reading that your parents, you remember these incidents of them having not had licenses and being arrested, and this clear recollection at age 4 of your mom getting arrested for illegally selling sweets without a license.
She was arrested after giving birth to my sister, who was born in May 1966. So that arrest may have happened shortly after that, and she had to go away, and I was left with this baby. And eventually an aunt from the street came over to collect the baby, and my mother was released, I think, later that night. My father, on the other hand, yes, had these very interesting stories about his interaction with the justice system. He was more frequently arrested, and he would then tell us the stories about how he represented himself in court. He would never ask for a lawyer. And coming back to think about it, I think that may have spiked my interest in the law. He would tell us how he told the magistrate, "You can't judge me, considering that it is your system that is denying me a license. If you tell me where to find the license to trade, I would get it. And until then, it is improper that you should have me arrested and tried in this court." In the way he told the version, it seemed like he always triumphed. In real life, we don't know what really happened. He probably ended up paying a fine.
What were you like as a young woman growing up?
I was very quiet. My brother now says I was the family snitch. You know, if my parents needed to know who ate the peanut butter or the sweets, I was most likely to tell the truth. But at school, I was quiet, but from the teacher's point of view, a bit naughty, in that in class I was always reading something. Initially, it was comics, because my cousin was a domestic worker, and she always passed the comics she got from her workplace to me, and I would be reading them in class. And later she was passing on Mills and Boons, and I would be reading Mills and Boons. So that was the extent of my naughtiness, though, just reading something. But I always ended up being a class prefect, and later at high school I was part of the formal prefects for the school, and university I ended up in the campus disciplinary committee.
At what point did you start to think, maybe I should study law, maybe this is something that I want to do?
I already had wanted to be a lawyer. By the time I went to Wits, I had been to university for a year and passed very well, but didn't want to proceed because I wanted to be a lawyer. My parents, or my mother, together with my pastor, thought I should pursue science, and particularly with the view to studying medicine later. Around grade 11, when I think my formative years were coming to their end, I started having an interest in law. And by the time we agreed as a family, and then I applied at the university, law was full, and then I did humanities for a year. After a year of studying humanities, I wasn't happy, and then came back to teach at Naledi High. My mother during that time then kept pestering me. My friends and I were very happy with me doing whatever I was doing. My mother, on the other hand, kept saying that you need to complete your education, and that's where she mentioned that education is really the greatest leveler. She wanted degrees for us. She had said that all her goals in this lifetime was to make sure that by the time she dies, every one of us has a degree.
You were offered a Harvard scholarship, but you turned it down to become one of the 11 people who drafted the Constitution. What was the thought process that went behind that?
And certainly, attending Harvard was regarded as crazy by members of my family and some of my friends. Drafting the Constitution was an opportunity of a lifetime. It wasn't going to come again. I already was involved in the drafting of the Constitution. It would have meant abandoning that, and the process had just started. I really think I made the right decision because Harvard could wait, but Constitution drafting was not going to wait. People insult me because they are afraid of me or what I represent. I can't lie that I'm not saddened by it, but I'm not devastated because I'm at a point in my life where I know I am beautiful. I know that actually I was created for a particular purpose and I'm fit for that purpose.
News that moves. eNCA.com.